council study session for December 5th, 2022. Doug, I believe you're up first if you want to give us the Parks and Recreational Annual Report.
All right, thank you, Mayor and Council. Just wanted to provide a summary. You should all have a copy of the report that we presented. Lots, very colorful, lots of information and things that we have. But I wanted to provide a summary of. Of course, look at that, Jackie doesn't show up right.
Oh, no,
Oh, well, it did on ours, but not on there, so I apologize for that. But I just kind of summarize a little bit. We're obviously what Parks and Rec is all about. We want to offer a variety of experiences that enhance and preserve the quality of life. And so this obviously entails that. This first slide here kind of shows you a lot about the revenues. There's a number there for property tax, but I think of it kind of this way, is 23 cents per resident per day. So the value that people get from what we offer, we're going to summarize that here. Over $330,000 of our revenue is from fees and sponsorships and donations and other things besides just property tax. Our second biggest revenue source is concession stand out at Pickard Park, which is kind of amazing. From when I started, we maybe had like $15,000 a year. Now we're somewhere between 80 and 90,000 a year on a regular basis. So that helps support the park and the facilities out there. Just want to make sure you know the aquatic center is not included here. We talked about that about a month ago, even though our staff operates that, but the budget's completely separate, so that's not included here. Just so you know, our staff is almost 60% of our entire budget for all the staff that we have, full-time, part-time, all the benefits and everything there. And then for supplies, contracts, utilities, all the things that we operate, it's about 28% of our entire budget. So I think that's pretty normal with a department like us. It takes a lot of people to do the things that we do and and taking care of facilities and so on. On here, you'll see we had around 3,000 program registrations. I always like to point out that a third of those are from non-residents or those that live outside of Indianola. But a lot of those people are still part of our city because they go to schools here, but they don't pay property tax, so still a big portion of what we do.
Doug, can I ask you on that?
Yeah.
Excuse my ignorance here. Did we at one time charge non-residents more than we did residents for those things? Do we still do that?
A lot of our programs have a fee and then a resident fee.
Okay. Thank you.
It's usually $5 or up to 20% of the program fee, or up to $5 maximum.
Thank you.
Also kind of the other things that we do and other things we track is the activity center daily attendance. And for the year, that was just under 8,000 people. So on the, we're only open Monday through Friday, so it was about 200 days. So it's a pretty busy place, especially in the mornings. And it's super valuable for that. That does not include with those registrations. So.
Is it quite busy on the weekends with different things that people rent out as well?
Sometimes a lot of people have wedding receptions, birthday parties, graduation parties. It's kind of depending on the season.
Time of the year.
This time of year is not super busy. It's not as busy as it used to be 10 years ago, but it still definitely gets used a lot. And on this one here, with the parks and facilities, I kind of wanted to highlight the fact that parks, that's kind of the big thing that we really focus on when it comes to facilities. There's 15 parks, over 255 acres. And everything that goes with them, all the trees, all the lawns, all the flower beds, the shelters, everything that people see. But also restrooms and playgrounds and trails and walkways and everything else that we have to maintain. We do have some, we had grass trails, one at Danelski Park and one several at Pickard Park that people do use. You'll see people in the room that come almost every day here. So they know the value of our parks and areas that aren't necessarily hard surface. So we have over 450 rentals in our shelters and the activity center. So we're, again, as Steve said, birthday parties or small little meeting, all long things there. A lot of school picnics, graduations, wedding receptions, family reunions and things too. One of our big parks for us is Pickard Park. Just kind of quick, some of the things that we have out there. We started last July right off the bat with our first disc golf pro tour event, the first one in Iowa. Again, we'll have our third one here this coming summer. but we had 6 disc golf tournaments in 2021, 22. Over 2,500 games and practices at Pickard Park Softball Complex. I look at John because he was there every day with his daughters and coaching and so on. But it's pretty much from March to November. It's used every night for baseball and softball practices and games and things. We also had 3 cross-country meets. Simpson uses the park for a cross-country meet, and so does the high school. And then just, it's going on right now, but last winter was their first year of the Tour of Homes Nights of Lights out at Pickard Park, and they've grown that to have another light display out there too. Other parts of this is beautification is really important for us on the quality of life things that has and the council has as a priority. But the medians, obviously on Highway 65, 69, one of the first places anybody comes into town. Obviously Buxton Park, over 55 flower beds around the community that Angie and her staff and volunteers help take care of. Not to mention at the greenhouse, which is at Pickard Park, her and her volunteers and a few staff grow over 10,000 plants every single year that go around Buxton Park, the square, all the flower beds. And they plant all those in about a week in May. So it's a pretty big deal. And then unfortunately, most of them have to get taken out doesn't take about a day in October to take them back out. But so those things. The squares obviously added a lot to that, as you see. They'll finish up the rest of the plantings here the upcoming spring. But those are a learning process, and as the community sees that, but that's going to become more of a beautification effort for us too. And we don't want to forget snow removal as we're moving into snow season, right? But we do have to do parking lots, trails, sidewalks, entryways, but those are important. Our staff comes in every morning really early, sometimes 2, 3 in the morning to get those things open after Easter. And then also not to forget right-of-way trees. We have to do the removal, and a lot of them, especially with ash trees if they've died. But we have to do removal, but the landowners are responsible for maintaining those. Thanks. Some of the projects here on here, we had several in our parks facilities. We've been working on the Pickard Park Disc Golf Course improvements, is trying to get that ready for the golf tournament. Continue to keep doing that. It's going to be an evolving process as it goes. They were even just working on it this weekend down there. McCord Park, we're building a new one along with the Rotary and several group of very, very knowledgeable disc golfers from Indianola that'll help us with that. We did install the Moats Park restroom. You can kind of see it hanging on there. It came on a crane and put that in there. That was the end of last 2021. Obviously the downtown streetscape and did some improvements at Buxton. You see the vehicles, we have to maintain our vehicles. We have several staff and they all have to have vehicles, especially if we have 17 different areas for them to maintain as they go. So unfortunately, we removed over 120 trees, planted 20. We never get to replace as many as we want to plant, but we'll keep on replacing as we go. And I did include the aquatic center ones, even though they're not in the budget, but our staff obviously has to be a part of that. Thanks, Jackie. One other thing that we do, we know our regular programs, we know the activities and facilities. We also do a lot of special events around the community. We have 40 of them that we do, just our department is responsible for, coordinating for. And of those, we had about 5,500 attendance that approved those. So from a daddy-daughter night, outdoor movies, tree plantings, the county day at the county fair, Live Healthy Iowa track meet, we usually have over 200 kids that run in that. Bike Fest that Mayor's Youth Council is with, does balloon camp, and I will add that he's looking to do an adult balloon clinic next year, so that might be something new. And our traditional favorites like the Halloween party and the flashlight Easter egg hunt when we do holidays and so on. And lunch and learns and afternoon concerts have been really big at the activity center the past year and a half or so. So we can usually have up to over 120 people that come to those. We usually do 2 of those every month, so those are pretty good. I'll have to say that we do collaborate with a lot of other groups. So as we talk about other departments, we work with the Bike Fest, Police Department. We do work with Fire Department, Police Department for Junior Police Academy and Fire Academies, Library for Splash and Story Time. And a lot of those things are again listed in your report, but work with a lot of our departments when collaborating for activities, but also team up with over 25 other groups around the community to provide all these events and activities. So some of them we help coordinate, but a lot of them they help coordinate. So we're usually a part of about 80 different activities throughout the summer that are just special programs. And then I can't stress enough with the teamwork and collaboration that goes along in the community. We have our 10 permanent staff members, and there's no way they could do all this by themselves. We have 39 other seasonal staff just in the Parks and Recreation Department side, 13 officials, over 240 officials, or volunteers that help do things, whether that's volunteer coach, helping Angie water flowers in the greenhouse, planting them like I talked about earlier. We also receive wonderful support from over 100 sponsors around the community, from donations to advertising and magazines to banners on the fence at Pickard Park and so on. So it's just one of our vision and goals for our department is to show the evidence of community pride. I think the level of the community involvement that we get with the sponsors and the groups and collaboration shows a sense of pride in all the programs and facilities our community values. Summary of everything that we have going on. Do you have any questions about anything?
Not a question, but I do have a comment that phenomenal job with the median and the entryway in the north side of town. I just, every year it just gets more mature and it just looks awesome. So
Cross our fingers, it comes up every summer because
I know, but
the
they do,
environment out there is terrible for
oh, it is.
growing any kind of plant, so.
Yeah, but they do a very, Angie does a great job, and I see that more and more her and less. It used to be, first couple of years, there'd be a lot of people helping her, and now it seems like it's just her out there by herself.
When we do our main, spring planting, there's usually 5 or 6 people out there getting all that ready to go.
Yeah,
But normally it's kind of like running there real fast, get things out and get out as
Yeah.
fast as we can because we don't want anybody to get hurt in there either, so.
well, the DOT doesn't help us by having to have all the, lock down all the
Good
lanes.
reason.
Well, I get it.
They're
You're
going
right.
55 miles an hour right by there. There's no reason
Right.
for anybody to
Yep.
be in the median very long.
Yeah.
You and your staff too, heard a lot of great things from some folks I know on the disc golf side of things. You guys do a great job with that. And, it's wonderful you're bringing it back and getting it back here in the next couple of years too, so.
That's part of that collaboration effort. We're
Yeah.
just a small little piece because it takes a lot of
Now,
other people
According,
that are
according,
putting a lot of effort to bring that here, so.
according to some folks that I've talked with, you're a big part of that, so your team is too, so you do a great job.
Did that tournament get larger the second year than it was the first year?
Yeah, they had more activities, had more time to plan. First one, we found out we were gonna have it in April and it was in July. Now we've had pretty much a year or so to plan for those things, but there's a lot of things behind we're trying to work with the chamber, trying to work with other businesses around the community to add to it. Last year there was a concert, other events, but maybe growing into that too. So not just the tournament itself, but the surrounding activities that go along with it. So,
And it is moving to June this year, is that
yeah,
correct?
June 23rd through 25th.
Same do, we do the ridiculous days, and I know the chamber, downtown merchants are working together.
Working on coordination on that yet, hopefully.
Absolutely.
I'd just like to add, you have a really small but mighty team, and
Yes.
you guys do a really, really great job, but also from a collaboration standpoint, really love working with everybody because you guys are very efficient and
Right.
fun to work with, so good job on everything that you do and for your leadership.
Yeah, thanks.
Any other questions for Doug? And I'd like to say thanks to Becky Lane. She helps a lot with the Bears Youth Council.
Yep.
Shows up at 7 a.m. on Wednesdays, so I appreciate that, and she keeps us in order, so
We're doing
Very
activity,
thankful
doing
for her.
activity Saturday at the holiday,
it's gonna be fun.
for holidays, yeah.
Okay,
Right.
thanks, Doug.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Moving on, Amanda Zanswinger with the Indianola Chamber of Commerce.
Wonderful. I want to thank you guys for inviting us back. I do have Pritesh here representing the board. So super excited to be presenting tonight to you. I know when we kind of first positioned this, it was to talk a lot about tourism, which we have that as a big agenda item for today. But the board and myself also thought with me being new and with the vision of our board being new, it would be a great opportunity to present that vision with you today. I think you're gonna find as I share it that it's really in line with the city's comprehensive plan. And so I'm gonna be walking you through that. But I wanted to share something personally with you guys first. Some of you may or may not know, but I was a business owner just over a month ago. 7 years ago, I started my own business. I was a solopreneur. And just this year, I hit this huge milestone for my business, and it was one that I celebrated. And I celebrated it because I was able to build that business working part-time so that I could have part-time to focus on a ministry that I had developed. It was in a great space. Things were going really, really well and successful. And then I was presented with this opportunity. And I share this with all of you guys because this opportunity immediately piqued my interest because of the passion that I have for the community. It was not easy to decide to leave my business. It wasn't easy to have my paycheck, but I did it because I want to personally invest in the future of this community. It's the only reason that I'm here. And so this meeting today for me is really important because I'm anxious to find out if the community is ready to invest in this same future that I see. And so with that all being said, I want to kind of dive in and share with you a little bit about that future. When I met with the board during the interview process, I actually presented a vision for the future. And the board was extremely excited about this. I think Pritesh would agree because it aligned with what they were visioning that our community needed. After I accepted the position, I decided I needed to dive in a little deeper into the city's comprehensive plan to find out what the city was viewing the responsibilities of the chamber and where we fit into that picture. And I have to tell you, I was super encouraged because when you look at the things on the left-hand side here, attracting and retaining and expanding businesses, promoting tourism and local businesses, making our square more vibrant and active retail location, providing high quality education for members of the community, and continually aiming to improve public community services. I read that and it was completely and totally in line with the vision that I have for the chamber as well, and that our board has. And so when I started looking at, you don't have to read all that, I know that's a lot of fine print, but I started going through it and looking to see where was it identified that the chamber should be responsible? And then where were we identified as being a strategic partner in that? And these were the takeaways that I took out of the big long PDF as where we fit into the picture. And I couldn't agree anymore. It is so on target with what I think that the chamber should be serving and that our board thinks the chamber should be serving. Our vision for the future really is built upon what we've been doing for over 100 years, which we have been contributing to economic vitality, business development, workforce development, and community betterment. And the tradition of the chamber is going to still continue. But we believe in order for Indianola to evolve into the community that it can be, we have to evolve as an organization and become a better resource and a better leader and a better activator of things that we need within the community. But not alone. Like, that's in partnership with all the collaborative partnerships that are in place. We have so many amazing organizations doing amazing things, amazing leaders in place. It really is just about having conductors, so to speak. We have a lot of good freight cars, but in some initiatives, we just don't have that conductor, making sure we're all in the same path. And that's a vision that we feel that we think we can serve. When it comes to economic vitality, we talked about tourism and convention business, which I'm going to get into, but that is a space that we had identified as our future. Entrepreneurship is a big focus. Business advisory, actually not just being a directory for businesses, but being able to help businesses analyze what they need to do, adjust to be successful, and make sure the businesses that we have that are starting up have the tools and the resources and the good business ideas to be successful. And then downtown development, and I've chatted with a few on some strategies and ideas we have there. We just want to be a part of that picture and helping shape that moving forward. From a programming perspective, our business development series is really intended not just for membership, but really anybody in the community. That's the way I want to see it moving forward. And I see it evolving. I want to have a better focus on young professionals. They're the leaders of our future in our community. I want to be a part of helping develop them and actually build them into our development kind of progression that we have within the chamber of moving towards board, being a board member someday. Leadership development, not to conflict with what Warren County leadership is doing, but be a resource to businesses to help them develop leaders within their walls. Same with the employee development series. And then lastly, from a small business development standpoint, I'm really gonna put together a program that, a year-long series that's not only focused on small business tools, but also small business planning and strategies and helping them through the course of the year ensure that their business is operating that they need, the way they need it to. From a workforce development standpoint, we know that it's not ours, there's good partners in place that are working on workforce, but we believe that the chamber needs to have a part in ensuring the workforce that we're developing aligns with the needs that we have in the community. And we have that voice, obviously, working with our business community. I see mentoring programs in the future, work-based learning programs, which I have that right here. And I actually this morning got an email from Annette at the school district wanting to talk about a work-based learning program for the school district. So I was super excited to hear that. Talking about a college connection program, I haven't officially announced, but Marcia, the president of Simpson, is joining our board. And so we're gonna have just a great connection with Simpson leadership just within our board. And I also have a phenomenal Simpson student that I'm gonna have help me create this next semester for him. And then lastly, I don't wanna get into too much details on this, but I envision us helping in the job skills development standpoint, for connecting our businesses and helping create some social enterprises to help with those skills developments. And then lastly, community betterment. I believe that there's so much good going on in Indianola. I couldn't feel better about our future. And I really feel when we start talking about community betterment, we can play a part in helping lead that community collaboration. You know, I feel like Switzerland sometimes, and I want to play that role when we're talking about the way we want to shape Indianola moving forward. I see a big piece of our future being a chamber foundation, and that's not to compete with the organizations that we have in place. It's actually to help feed and provide them through the connection with the business community. You see this done really, really well in Des Moines with United Way. United Way has huge business campaigns. Employees spend a whole week doing fun activities and raising money for the nonprofits in the Des Moines community. We should be able to make that same connection here with our business communities, aligning them with the community betterment campaigns that we have. This is really what we see as the opportunity in front of us. We know this isn't going to happen tomorrow, but this is a vision for the future. The challenges, I'm only one point, maybe two. I do have a part-time entry-level position that works alongside me, but that's all that I have. And so I know that it can seem like this is next to impossible, but we're not the only community who's been in this situation. The majority of communities all started with chambers that looked like one. And what we've seen is the communities that you probably visit, the communities you're hearing about having a lot of thriving activity and tourism and hustle and bustle, have moved away from being the one-person chamber shop. They've used it as a community betterment platform. Spencer is a case study. Their population is 11,356, so it is a smaller population than us. Their membership size, about the same. They got just a little bit more. But their annual budget for their chamber is more than half of what the Indianola Chamber of Commerce's budget. What they've been able to do with that is they have their executive director, like me, oversees both chamber operations, tourism, and the foundation. They have events and programs and their office and finance, 2 individuals, and they serve the traditional chamber focused initiatives as well as other community betterment initiatives. And in that part, just their normal chamber operations, the city funds $50,000 a year for them to be able to accomplish that. In addition to their base chamber operations, they have an individual who serves as their marketing and tourism coordinator. And that is a position that's actually half funded by the county and half funded by the city. And I believe it's through the hotel motel tax that they're using that funding for. And then lastly, they have a work-based learning employee who works within the walls of the Chamber of Commerce. It is a school employee, and their initiative is, or their main focus is to implement this work-based learning initiative. I share this just with all of you to help you see that there is opportunity for us to grow the Chamber of Commerce here in Indianola. We're gonna struggle doing that alone with it being on the businesses. The businesses are already so generous in their investments, not only in the chamber, but in community initiatives and advertising, or sponsoring the various events. It can't be the businesses alone that fund the future of our community. And so today, part of what I want to share with you is really that gap that we have in our traditional chamber operations, but also I want to present this strategy we have for tourism with the mindset that we're going to need help doing it. I'm prepared to do it. I shared with you guys when I was here last time, for 8 years, I worked in the space of selling other communities, and I did it through working with organizations that sold communities. I'm prepared and ready to do that. Our board is prepared and ready to help do that, but we're hoping for support in making that a reality. When we start talking about the tourism and where we're at, like the investment we've received to date and where we're going in the future, the investment that we've received to date funded not just a platform, but really the beginning concepts and development of what our tourism platform should look like and be. That's been phase one. But phase two is really, to me, defining further collectively who it is that we want to be and what it is that we want to market to not just Iowa and the metro, but the world. I know, Doug shared with me, we have one of the world's best disc golf courses, and people will travel here from all over the world. And so part of where we're needing to stop this kind of wheel, so to speak, that you see, is where I see phase two needing to be. We can launch in the spring, but at some point in time, there has to be a decision to commit to the operation of tourism in Indianola. When I'm talking about tourism strategy, it's really, we have so many organizations that are so good and effective at tourism. Our balloons, the Metro Opera, the disc golf, Parks and Rec, we have the hotel business. We have so many arms of tourism doing a really, really good thing, but we're not necessarily all at the table together. And that's the first step that I think we need to take moving forward, is having that stakeholder work session. And in that, we're doing a SWOT analysis. We're defining what our strengths are, what we're not good at, so we don't try to be something that we're not. The opportunities we have in front of us, and what are the threats if we don't take care of specific things, what's going to happen to this strategy. Following that, we need to define who it is that we want to be. And this is, when I say this is our brand, it's not about the logo. I'm talking about what we want to be and how we want to represent ourselves and define ourselves in a way that's going to set us apart. We have to define our tourism marketing mix. I'm going to get into a few of these things. Define our budgets, our resources, and our roles, and then establish those goals in that roadmap. To me, this is where we need to do this soon, because I think I shared last time with you, I feel like we're sitting on a gold mine of opportunity. We have hidden treasures just waiting to be out there. The product this is really about defining and demonstrating what our product is. Our community is a product, and then we have products within our community itself. And so aside from our regular experiences and attractions and places to stay and our dining and the events, we also have opportunities to package this in ways. People who are being effective in marketing their communities for conventions, tourism, whatever it may be, they do the work for the person who's gonna buy. They put the packages together knowing who it is that they want to buy that, and they make it easy. And so that's a big part of what is it that we wanna be, how do we want our product to look? And then really starting from there to define our branding and marketing messages. How are we gonna go about doing that? We've started that process. It's one that I would like to test. I would rather, not go live in the spring without anybody else saying, hey, we love these brand campaigns. I would like a collective process in that. We've come up with 2. You've seen Explore Indianola, Launch Your Adventure. We also have Experience Indianola, The Sky is the Limit. These are just a couple. I think in that work session process, others would be defined. But branding and marketing isn't just about a logo. It's a lot of work. And so just a few examples, the same people that we're marketing to for the disc golf tournament are not going to be the same people that we're marketing to who come here to the ball fields on the weekends. Both opportunities to spend a lot of money in our community. We're going to reach them both in different ways, and we're going to send them in different directions. And so taking the opportunity to define who are those target audiences, how do we need to effectively communicate to them so that they our message is finding the message that's relevant to them. After we go through that process of marketing, we have our platform. And our platform, this is not a static environment. We cannot launch this and then let it sit. It needs to be dynamic. It needs to be content heavy, blogging, people hashtagging, and drawing attention to our platform. So that's just another part of the strategy we need to make sure is being accounted for. And then lastly, and quite most importantly, is the operations. So we could do a super effective job at selling Indianola, and then if they get here and it's like, wow, they sold me this bill of goods and it flopped the way it was executed, then that's gonna hurt our brand in the long run. And so we really need to define how are we going to operate tourism, groups and convention business moving forward. Tourism is a little bit easier, but when we start talking about maybe having VIP retreats come and spend part of the Balloon Classic here, we need to know what kind of accommodations, high-end food, nice transportation. Those are the things that we need to be buttoning up and defining. We believe that given just the seat that we already sit in, we receive calls, we receive inquiries about places to have events, things to do. Every week I get asked for itineraries. We're in a position where we're already responding to these needs and these demands. We feel it's natural that we are leading this charge. And when I say leading this charge, I don't mean taking away from any of the other organizations that are doing great things in our community. I'm talking about leading collaboration with them. I've already had conversations with nearly almost every stakeholder that's some of our big tourism attractions. They agree with me that having a seat at the table and having us almost be, I call it a conductor, I don't know what else to call it, but a convention and visitors bureau for the city of Indianola is where we see our fit. So our ask today is really about confirming and identifying if you guys see this as a fit for us as well. If this is the direction that you believe that the city needs to go, then the Indianola Chamber of Commerce would like to ask to be essentially the Convention and Visitors Bureau, Tourism Bureau, whatever we want to define it and call it, for the community. Our second ask is really about helping us get there if that's the case. We're asking you to invest in this future with us. I wish that I would have been here a month or so ago because I know you guys just, you generously wrote us a check. I'm looking beyond that. I'm looking to the future and understanding how can the city help us to not just be the Convention and Visitors Bureau, which I think is a big piece of this, because once we bring that tool into our tool belt, we'll be able to serve the community in many other capacities, but also help us to be the resource and the responsible party that you've identified through your comprehensive plan. If that's something that you guys are as excited about as I am, I would love to hear thoughts, feedback, and take any questions. And Pritesh is here as well on behalf of the board if anybody wants to ask him questions.
I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead, Ron.
So on that last slide, Amanda, I'm horrible with acronyms. What is CVB?
Sorry, Convention and Visitors Bureau.
Okay. Like I said, I'm horrible with acronyms. I don't put
Yeah.
it together. A couple of questions I was thinking about when you were talking, you're talking about the board. How many people are on the board?
We have 11 board members.
Board, okay. And what is the annual budget?
So right now, we vary anywhere between $150,000 to $170,000.
And what comprises of all that?
So that accounts for all, if you can imagine, any office technology expenses, the things that house chamber operations are kind of your general operation expenses, marketing. And then there is payroll. And then there's also event expenses. There's probably, and I don't know the exact amount, and I'd be happy to walk through it with you, but there's a decent amount expended on community events that aren't necessarily fundraisers for the chamber. So there's some community expenses in that mix as well.
How is the chamber currently coming up with 150 or 170,000?
So it's through the investors, business
dues.
nonprofit organizations and civic investment.
That's our only source of revenue currently?
Yeah, so we have membership investment, and then there will be some sponsorship investment, like add-ons, above and beyond that, but most of our investment is through membership.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And our current contribution is $5,000, is that correct?
I don't necessarily have any questions. I wanted to comment on two things you said that I really like to hear because I've heard these conversations in the last several years about being together for a strategy. There are so many good people working on so many good things and we're just not working together. And it has to be better together, to be more efficient and that kind of thing. So I really, I'd like to hear that. And then I also was involved in a couple of nonprofits before I joined council. And one of the pushes was to get the nonprofits working together under one umbrella. And that didn't fly, but that's not to say we couldn't do something like you suggested. And I think that would be really helpful. Because again, there are a lot of people doing similar things that, that could be more efficient. So I really like to hear. And I mean, wow, you just really blew us away with this plan and you're what we've needed, and I'm really glad to have you.
Do you have a number in mind for what the city could possibly contribute that would help further along?
I made a $50,000 ask through the application that I signed this last year. I need a resource. That's really what I need, and I need more than that, but that is where I'm needing to start. And I know right now our Convention and Visitors Bureau is in Des Moines, and I know we have some restraints on timing. I just still need support in the next 18 months in order to be able to start to activate the things that need to be activated here.
So it would be for staff then, or for?
A big part of it would be staff as well as like the marketing initiatives for tourism.
So materials and,
Yeah, I will, like if we're paying for spots
Design.
to
Oh.
do something in Des
Sure.
Moines or. I
so
don't.
Stacy
A
doesn't have to.
billboard, I don't
Right.
know.
Well, even, I know, Stacy and I have talked about with the Balloon Classic several
Yes.
times, how there've been many opportunities for us to, present ourselves maybe a little more
Yes.
fully.
And I really see working with the Disc Golf Classic and Metro Opera and Stacy at the Balloons and others to figure out how do we more cost effectively market so that everybody benefits. So if they've got a marketing budget, and we have all these marketing budgets, how do we leverage them to pour into this community? Not to take away with what they're doing, but let's not both be sending money in the same direction. Let's get smart about how we're sending our money and how we're leveraging those spots.
So I spent 3 years on the chamber board before I got elected to council, and change was coming at that time. And we were a long ways away from where we are now. And I would tell you that the current amount of money that the city has paid over all these last years, and it's been every year, they've been asked for more, we've not. And the reason we had not is because we've not seen anything like this.
Exactly.
I would always willing to fund those things that are gonna be beneficial for our community if there was a plan for it. And I think the difference we have now sitting in front of us, and yes, it seems, going from 5,000 to 50,000 for what she's asking, and obviously you always ask for what, go in big, cause you never know, you might say yes, and
You did shock me a little bit, Amanda.
And I think having a plan, having an idea of what the direction could be, I think is important. And I'm more than willing to look at that,
I agree.
and be able to fund that than I have been in the past. And like I said, that's the reason why, the history of it was, in talking with my previous colleagues that there were, or since gone, we would have funded it more. But it's like, we're not just gonna fund because you're here.
We had to have
We
this.
want something that's gonna benefit our community.
Kind of like when Pritesh came with the website and all of a sudden we were like, whoa,
Yeah.
that's a lot different than what we thought. So I think we're really excited about your vision and what you're bringing to us as a
And you have a
community.
plan.
And
way
a
to
plan, a
implement
solid
it.
plan.
And I know that, I know it's, I knew it might sound like a shocking number, but in reality, it was my conservative number.
Mhm.
Only because when you look at some of these comparable communities that are the size of ours, they're way ahead of us.
They are.
And so I didn't want to go light and continue to be behind where they're at. We gotta catch up.
What's your non-conservative number?
Well, I would like to be a $350,000 chamber like Spencer. So I got a ways to go.
Amanda, do you have that on a phased out timeline? Or,
Not yet, like,
Okay.
this was a pretty critical conversation for me to have to begin identifying, because we got our fiscal year next, starting January 1. It's new leadership, new opportunity to roll out like a new future. And I don't wanna do that and commit myself to more than I can and then have it fail. That's where I'm hoping that I can, have some confidence in bringing somebody on to help make this a reality so that we kick things off and we hit it out of the park. That's my plan.
and is there an element from a county perspective regionally?
I'm
When you're
hitting-
speaking
yeah.
tourism and. okay.
Yeah, I'm talking to Darren about it. There's some complications and apparently we got built out of the budget, but he's working on us presenting so we can be built back into the budget. So,
I think the thing that, and I agree with John 100% on the vision. One of the things that I mentioned a couple of times in council meetings here was that we in the past 35 years or 40 years in the city of Indianola have gone from different organizations to different organizations trying to pull together our tourism and our development to a certain extent. I said it's time we get the 40-year monkey off our back, and that was the phrase I used, and I think your vision here really starts to get rid of that monkey. What I would tell you is that personally, and I can't speak for the other members of the board or the council here, but I kind of have an idea where I think some of them are, is that I'm not happy with our current investment in Catch Des Moines and a few other things as well. And so the problem is we're in a 2080 agreement with Catch Des Moines, and we've got to work our way. If we decide to go that direction, we got to work our way out of that. But let me ask you a couple of questions. And this is just for me, not talking to anybody else about this, but is there a possibility that maybe there could be an in-kind contribution from the city for a short period of time? Is that something that maybe you've ever even thought about?
So can you elaborate on in kind?
Well, Ben Sittenberger's probably gonna have a heart attack, but we are gonna hire,
Andy, actually, let's be honest.
we are gonna hire a communications person here, and I'm just kind of wondering if there's some way maybe we could work in-kind thing that would give some direction or some help or some support in that particular area. Or something else. It could be anything. I mean, it could be a lot of different things. I'm just kind of wondering if that might be an opportunity. And what my thinking is if we decide to move out of this, the Catch Des Moines thing, it might give us a little bit of time, budget-wise, to kind of move in that direction so that we're taking the money that we'd invest in the Catch Des Moines and be able to invest with our own local folks here. But it might be able to fill a gap, and that's just what I'm kind of sitting here thinking about that. And I don't know if that's something that's conversations you folks all can have, but maybe it's something that you could think about, and maybe that might be a way to offset some of that cost at the beginning. I love your idea about the Convention and Visitors Bureau being part of your office and your team. I think it's a great solution. I think your plan is wonderful. I know you and I have talked about a lot of opportunities that we have in the community between mountain biking at Somerset State Park and the trails we have at Lake Aquabi. And in fact, I talked to somebody here recently. I talked to Al a little bit about trying to resurrect the plan we had in 2000 to put cabins back out at Lake Aquabi and put those for rent. And maybe that's something we could work with the DNR on and a number of things later too. But I think there's a lot of opportunities, as you mentioned. I think it's the question right now is for how do we help you get that funding and how do we do that? And if in-kind could be a portion of that, again, I give Ben a heart attack or Andy, but I'm just kind of thinking maybe that might be something we could work out a little bit too. Some
So
thoughts?
I would never turn down support and help. But I think it'd still create a gap for me. I think it would fill one of the gaps, but I'd still have gaps.
I think that would be more of a collaboration, don't you, with the
Yeah.
communications person? It
Yes,
would be another
and I see
stakeholder.
that
to
no matter
collaborate.
what.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you have to have control of the time and the tasks of the
Yes.
person.
Yeah, like for instance, if we have a principal who wants to bring 30 of their executives down for an experience in Indianola, there's gonna probably be time expectations and packaging, and we're not gonna deliver it for them, but we're gonna bring the pieces together from the people who fulfill it in the community and sell it to them. And so those are the things where, knowing that you guys have been in need of a communications person in the city for a very specific reason, because you have city communication demands, the only concern I would have is still meeting the expectations of the people we're responding to, but I'm not turning it down.
It's just not an instead of.
Yeah, and it wouldn't be, and that was never my thinking either, that obviously, my thinking is that we've got, I don't remember what our contract is with Catch Des Moines, it's 18 months or something that we have to get out of a 2080
July
agreement.
2024.
What?
July 2024. would be
Yeah,
the effective.
so I'm just thinking, is there any way that we could maybe bridge that gap? Because I know our budgets are gonna be a little tight too, and a few other things, and so that's my only thought with that. But having said all of that, I think there's things that we can obviously look at too. One other question I had for you, and I don't know, I think Ben has gone to a couple of your meetings or a couple of your groups, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. Do we actually have a seat on your board as a city? I mean, that's another question too, that I was kind of curious
It's an
about.
ex officio seat.
Ex ex officio? Okay.
It's been that way for, like I said, it's been that way for longer than I was on the.
But I just-
So, yeah.
I knew it had been in the past, I didn't know if that was still the case.
I think the main thing that, whatever we decide we can do, that we're comfortable with doing, is to do our best, and then to help you hit it out of the park right away, because you have a window. So I think it's really key to be as aggressive as we can.
I do caution one thing, we don't wanna isolate ourselves from the Des Moines Metro.
No, we do not.
Cause that was a big change that we made when I first got on council, is that we were isolated from them, and it took a lot of, previous city manager Ryan Waller spent a ton of time fostering those through the Greater Des Moines Partnership as well as CVB, and because there was a group, so we joined, and then previous city manager of that, Eric Hansen, was frustrated that they weren't doing anything for us. Well, I asked the question, what have we asked them to do for us? And Ryan took that and ran with it, and so, I think if we still need, I mean, I like the fact that we have a separation, we're part of the metro, but yet we're not, but yet we still need them, that's big.
That's our distinct
That's that
identity.
big monster standing right there, and we need that help. So I don't wanna isolate ourselves from that. I think we need to look at what do we need to do to be able to improve what we have, but yet still be in the conversation with them. I do think, we're sitting, you're right, the timing is perfect right now, I think, because we've done a lot of things over the last so many years where, I know we always talked about it, economic development in the past was, we need an economic development director, we need to be pushing this. Well, we really didn't have anything to sell. If we had a director, they would have wasted all their time and tried to sell things we didn't have. We're starting to get that now, we're starting to get some land open. Same type of thing here. I think now we have a position where we've got things going on in our community that outsiders want to see and be able to be part of. And so I think we're kind of sitting at that point now where we need to move forward. And I think your timing is right. So I do think it does probably mean that obviously we're gonna be looking to make a tough decision and try to increase some funding, so.
I think,
I would not what John said. I do think that the Des Moines partnership is really important for us, and I think you're discounting the value because we currently have it, but I think we need both. Like, we need to step up our game locally and put ourselves on the map, but then work with our partners around us that will help elevate us as region.
I think
I
the part,
don't agree more until I meant to mention that. In fact, Pritesh probably noted, oh, she missed it, but our partnerships outside of Indianola are just as important, and we would be playing that role to ensure that we are being marketed appropriately with the partnerships we do have in place. And you know, Catch Des Moines, I believe, is I know Greg, and I want to have a conversation with him at some point in time if I'm entrusted with this journey, because I think that we're going to strengthen what Des Moines has to sell. They do not have this type of experience to market, so we make their convention business story package stronger here in Indianola, and I think Greg would agree. If we build this,
Well, they can rely on us for other opportunities
Yeah.
and experiences that we have that they can't deliver.
yeah,
the only thing I would say though is, and John, you're right about partnership, the Des Moines partnership is critical. It is a partnership of all the chambers and all the groups involved around the metro area. I think that is something else that we can continue to strengthen as well as our role in the partnership. Not just a trip to DC every year, but actually getting involved and going to their meetings and being part of their board eventually down the road. Because I think you do get a lot of things out of that. And at one time, we did have some of that, and we're starting to foster that, and then it kind of fell off the table for whatever reason. But I think the partnership can be a very valuable part of our thing. My concern is, I'm just gonna lay it on the table here and be very blunt and honest. I think with Catch Des Moines, and I agree, we need the Visitors Bureau, we need to be part of that as well to a certain extent, but I just feel like we kind of gotten run over by, everything being directed to the Des Moines things and on their website and every place else that's been going on out there as far as what they've been doing. And we really haven't gotten any bang for our buck for quite a while. And so the question for me is, how much do we stay in that? Do we not stay in that? Frankly, I just as soon work everything through here if we could, as much as we can. But I agree to a certain extent. We still need to have that relationship. But I think the partnership in and of itself with Jay Byers' group and getting more involved with them, not just DC trips, but more involved in going to some of their meetings and having some active role in there, I think is really important too.
And Ben and I recently had a meeting with Ben, or with Jay Byers and Stacy Loven, is it Loven? And it was a really good meeting, so I think, yeah, we wanna strengthen that too,
Well, we
so.
have a huge advantage with Jay being a Simpson
And
grad,
Stacy
board
lives
of
in Indianola.
trustee, Indianola resident previously. I mean, we have a lot of things.
That disconnect is our own fault. Like,
Mhm.
they're there for us, but we have to let them know that we're here and what we need too.
I think John's point, yeah, letting him know what we need, because we can't complain about something not being done if,
I used to be heavily involved with partnerships, so those are relationships I was on the board for their young professionals group for a really long time.
And I think that's critical because, again, I think it's important for, for us to have, if we have two or three of us that involved and can go to their weekday meetings and things that they have, and some of the networking that you can do with that group. I think you've been into a few of those, if I'm not mistaken. I know John
I
has.
find them very valuable.
And-
They
and-
do impact us.
They're kind of a lunch and learn thing sometimes once in a while too, and those things are very valuable, but the networking side of that's what's critical too. And I think that's part of us too, that we need to help do that, help being ambassadors for what you're talking about as well, so. We just need to be a little more involved there, but I do think we need to figure out a way, how do we fill the gap? How do we do those kinds of things that we need to do? As we move some of the funding from some of our resources into other areas, so. Some thoughts.
We only have a few minutes left of study session, so thank you, Amanda, and Mitesh, thank you for coming. We appreciate it.
Nice job.
Amanda,
Every time
can
you
you
come.
send contact information to us?
What's that?
Can you send your email
Yes,
to us?
of
'Cause
course.
I don't have that.
I can leave some cards right here too.
That's fine.
if anybody
That's
wants
fine.
to grab
Thank you. All right, is there any questions on the agenda? If not, we'll take a quick break, because we gotta start back up in 2 minutes. Got about 2 minutes. In December 5th, 2022, will you please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I
Pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Jackie, would you call the roll?
Councilmember Hewlin? Here. Parker?
Present.
Dalby?
Here.
Schroeder? Present. Beach?
Here.
Richardson?
Present.
Mayor Erickson?
Present. We'll now move into the public comment section. If there's anyone here that would like to address something that's not on the agenda, you can come forward now and state your name and address for the record. All right, seeing none, we'll move into item number 5, the consent agenda. I need a first and second, well, first I should ask, does anything need to be polled? No, okay. First and second motion to approve the consent agenda.
Move to thread.
Second.
You want to give us just a few highlights on that?
Yeah, so you have one correction to the minutes, and that was that Councilman Richardson abstained from the Historic Society vote, and so I just want to make sure that that was noted in the record as well. In the consent agenda itself, we have the setting of the public hearing for the Warren County Historic Society, a few liquor licenses, a third reading of the use of fireworks, second consideration for the sign code ordinance, the Arts Master Plan that was presented during a study session earlier, the Civil Service Commission's list for the police captain's position, as well as a mowing contract that we're discontinuing and then we're going into. The first consideration of the Sustainability Committee that also came to the council in a work meeting, and then a zoning change as well. That's it for you for your consideration.
Any questions for Ben? Jackie?
Councilmember Parker?
Aye.
Dalby?
Aye.
Schroeder?
Aye.
Beach? Aye. Richardson?
Aye.
Hewlin?
Aye.
We have Councilmember Hewlin with the Capital Crossroads Steering Committee report.
You. Yes, we met for the second time, and as you recall, we're focusing on Central Iowa's future through 2040. And we were in phase 2 of this, and so what we had to do is pare down the 40 trends that have been identified down to 8 that the group's going to be focusing on. And so not in any particular order, these were just the ones that we had selected, and this was done by tables, and we had kind of a sorting. It's done in a fun but yet professional manner. So there's an integrity to the process, but makes it delightful for everybody participating. But the trends that we are focusing on are shortage of affordable housing, growing population, individual and environmental health concerns, growing jobs, increasing BIPOC population, including Latino population and economic impact, continuing brain drain, declining K-12 enrollment, specifically in Polk County, an impact on the education achievement gap, and then increasing sustainability action focused on water quality and supply. And so that's kind of a really brief abbreviation of what each one of those trends typically is. But I'll send you guys information that shares a little bit more about each one of those. And so excited about the next process. So we'll be meeting again January 18th and diving a little bit deeper into that. And I'll have some more information to share then. But I'll send to you what we've gone through. I think you'll find it really interesting. A lot of it does impact us as well, maybe in a different way and maybe in a different timeline, but it will definitely hitting us too.
Thanks for sitting on that.
Yeah, I'm enjoying it. Thank you.
We'll move on to item number 7, and that is the mayor's report with a community update. We have this weekend down on the square, the Home for the Holidays event from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. Mayor's Youth Council will be sponsoring Write a Letter to Santa that will have a response that will come from the North Pole. They will be located inside the Justice Center, and again, 5 to 9 p.m. There's a couple other great things that are happening today. Speaking with the merchants, they lined up reindeer and a lighted sleigh, so come down to the square and enjoy this holiday event. So it's gonna be one that I think they're definitely going to have to get bigger next year. So I don't see Chief Chia, but I know at one time they were talking about fireworks. That's not gonna happen right now? I wanted to give the community a heads up if it was. I do not believe we were having fireworks this weekend, so.
Reindeer might not like that.
that is $40 in the mall. So they are for free and they're inside the Justice Center where you can also make cookies. It's gonna be a great event. That's all I really have. We've been spending a lot of time on that, a lot of time on costumes and setup, but it'll be fun. We will move on. I need a first and second motion for consideration of appointment of Randy Bickham to serve on the Parks and Rec Commission for a term beginning immediately and ending July 1st, 2025.
So moved. Second.
All right, any discussion?
Glad to have him.
Yeah, he'll be a nice
Really
addition.
excited.
Yeah, I talked with Randy, and I think he's excited to get on, so.
I'm
He'll be a big
excited to
asset.
see him. Absolutely. All right, Jackie?
Councilmember Hewland?
Aye.
Parker?
Aye.
Dalby?
Aye.
Schroeder?
Aye.
Beach?
Aye.
Richardson?
Aye.
All right, welcome aboard, Randy. We're excited to have you. Move on to public consideration on old business. I need a first and second motion on a resolution approving amendment number 3 to a professional service agreement with Bolton and Mink, Inc. for engineering services for the downtown square reconstruction project and authorizing payment.
So moved as read.
Second.
All right. Hello, Charlie.
Good evening. As you mentioned, this is amendment number 3. So, since amendment number 2, which was approved on June 21st of 2021, we've done a lot of things. This project actually got started just a week before that amendment was approved. So again, there's a lot of things that have changed. Reason for this amendment, it is coming forward. It is really getting us through the end of this calendar year as far as engineering services that are needed. There's some key things that are causing this increase. The first 2 would be additional design services, both at the city's request and IMU's request. The third would be that we have asked the engineer to assist us in weekly business meetings with the owner and chamber throughout the project to inform businesses. We did do this every Wednesday morning this year throughout that process, and that did create a little bit of time needed from the engineer. There was a presentation that the engineer did give to the council here earlier this year on just how the design was done on some of the sidewalks on that, so there was a little bit of preparation on that. There was also a plat of retracement and some surveying work that was done for the right-of-way that we did acquire from the county as part of this project. A lot of additional maps and signage that were needed to assist the community with communications on the project. Additional design services for multiple unknown structures that were found underneath the sidewalk. We talked about this item when I gave my updated presentation. Coal chutes, window wells, just some of the franchise utilities that were underground that were unknown. And then an extended period of oversight for the general contractor and their subcontractors through the first phase of construction. So with that, the amended amount does increase the contract by about $117,000, bringing the total contract to $1,049,271.50. So with that, if there's any questions, be happy to answer them.
Any questions? All right.
It's a lot better number than we heard originally, so that's good. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Charlie.
Councilmember Dalby?
Aye.
Schroeder?
Aye.
Beach?
Aye.
Richardson?
Aye.
Hewland?
Aye.
Parker?
Aye.
For a resolution improving participation in the North American Watershed Management Authority Agreement.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Thank you. Hello, Devin. Devin is here from Carlisle, the city manager of Carlisle. I apologize, I forget your last name.
Devin Markling.
Alright.
I appreciate the opportunity to come talk to you guys. I'm actually here on behalf of the North Middle River Watershed Management Authority. I'm one of the voting members. In Warren County, we actually have the county itself, Carlisle, Cumming, and Norwalk are all members. Watershed covers about 950 square miles. And takes both the rivers. It all eventually flows through Warren County and Carlisle. That's why I have an interest. Ultimately, it was the Watershed Management Authority was put in place 5 years ago. There was never a meeting until about 2 months ago. At that time, we all got together and decided, are we gonna get this thing going, or are we just gonna let it fall by the wayside? The group is committed to getting it going, so we're going through getting our bylaws in place. And there were three main entities that stood out as not being part of it. Winterset, Madison County, and Indianola. So I've been tasked with coming to ask you guys if you'd be willing to join. At this point, there's no ask for money. We're really at the ground floor, so looking at several years down the road, there may be an ask for money, and that would be to cover a position. Our pitch to you guys is at this point, you guys can get in at the ground floor, figure out what you want it to be an active member and a participant in that, really guide us on the path. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask. I will say I'm not an expert on watershed management authorities by any means, but I can hopefully get it through tonight.
I really appreciate Devin coming to talk to me about this. I think it's really important to be, you know, a partner, especially with our neighboring communities and counties, and have a seat at the table. So, I appreciate him coming tonight and presenting to you.
So you mentioned not an ask for cash yet or anything, but are you looking for people to participate then in the meetings? So it'll be a time issue for staff or?
Correct, at this time, we would just ask for time. I will say, because we cover everything from Adair to Carlisle, the meetings have been held in Winterset, but they're offering a Zoom opportunity, so there's no drive time involved. They've been running about now. Current ask is, we'll do about 6 meetings this next year, and then we'll cut it back to quarterly.
And then Ben, would you be that staff member? Who sits on that from staff, I guess, from with your committee?
We have myself, and then the mayor is the second. I think Norwalk has a councilman who sits on it. Coming as the mayor.
I work at the pleasure, so it's, you agreed to decide as a council.
So I was here when we did, 5 years ago, we decided not to be part of this, and I'm still not sure I understand why. Yeah, they show the watershed barely touches us, but I guess, we felt at that time as council, I'm pretty sure it was unanimous that we didn't want to be part of it, so, still not sure I'm there yet, but I just don't understand. I don't know you guys, it makes sense, and I totally understand that. But I guess I'm still not understanding the, Indianola's involvement. Just
Pretty
one
much
person.
everything north of Kentucky Avenue in the new area in the northeast part of town flows into the creek that fills.
In the middle of it. I get it.
Yeah, and so any of the runoff that we have in those areas is gonna have some issues, and so basically anything from Highway 65, 69 and then northeast quadrant's gonna have something there that goes into that area. It fills up, and I can tell you, having had property in Somerset for a long, long time, what is known as plug run locally in Somerset gets flooded by the waters that come down from Indianola quite frequently, so.
I guess I mean, how would we
Well, I
benefit
think what we,
being part of this?
yeah, I think from our perspective, and I know Charlie does a great job with stormwater retention and things now is in our developments, but I think from our perspective, we need to be good partners, as Ben said, because we do have runoff that goes into those areas, and I think it's important for us to have a seat at the table, whether or not it's working to not pass some things that may be detrimental to the city, or passing things that would be detrimental, and I think that's important for us to be part of that discussion. Because we do contribute to that water that goes into that area, and so I think it's important that we do that. The one thing that I'm kind of curious about too, the South River's not part of that, and obviously there's a fair amount of, you know, if the South River backs up, it's gonna back up the Middle River, which backs up all of that other area too, so. Another side of it.
I had a question. So in your mission statement, it talks about establishing a strong rural communities, social and economic justice. What does social justice have to do with watershed?
I believe it has to do mostly with, the impacts that individuals have, so upriver impacts ultimately affect everybody downstream, and making sure that that is fair throughout.
I don't see how that ties into social justice, though. I'm just confused by the wording of the mission statement here.
Is that in the handout, the DNR?
Yeah, it just seems, blurring the lines a bit, right? I mean, if we're here to talk about watershed, I don't know what the social and economic justice has to do with
agree with you.
watershed.
I agree with you on that, Ron. Same thing we ran into with the arts.
Yeah.
And that is a point well taken, but not having a seat at the table doesn't let us change mission statements and things as well. And so really helping to guide it, I think, is probably an important thing, but it also has a very easy termination clause. If Indianola at any point does not want to be part of this, could step away. I just see our community as it's continuing to move north and west. We're going to be going more and more into those watersheds and not having.
How are we gonna prevent the watershed? I mean, what's the goal?
Well, typically with any kind of watershed issue, and I take this more from the mountainsides, and truly, you know, you do have water issues that can contribute. There's a lot of factors that can impact a community. So if you're downstream from a water issue, we might have things apply to us because we are having some kind of a negative effect on downstream, but we don't have a seat at the table to be able to have any control over that. If any improvements were going in along the rivers themselves, even recreational amenities, they could connect to our trail systems, and DNR has a whole system as far as not only water collection and pollution control, but also with recreational amenities as well. It's just a matter to be, you know, being part of the community in general, but are we a large player in this? No. I mean, we're fairly small. We're as far as our impact on that whole area as well. So it's just really, again, at the pleasure of the mayor and council to decide, do we have a seat at the table with no financial obligation, or not? That's really all it comes down to.
Full disclosure, I would admit too, having Carlisle, Norwalk, Warren County and Cumming, you guys will have representation. The managers talk often, and we're not gonna set you guys down the river for lack of a better term.
That's great.
Keep you guys in mind as we're making decisions, but I think the pitch from my standpoint, I think it benefits you to have someone in the room and give your own opinion in that instance. And like Ben said, there's easy outs if you guys decide, well, it's not really for us.
I would echo what Steve and Ben said. I think that we're always better if we're regionally stronger together. And I think it's always better to collaborate than to just cooperate anytime. So I
That's a good quote, Heather. Collaborate versus cooperate.
Thank you.
If we get involved in this and we decide, oh, wow, we no longer want out, or we no longer want to participate, is it still are all 28E agreements an 18th month exit period?
No. This one is like, I think 60 days. Yeah, with just a simple notification.
Okay.
That is pretty unusual to have 18 months. And in fact, almost pretty punitive.
From a board perspective, they're looking at keeping that barrier low.
I would really echo Ron's concern though about social and economic justice wording in there. I think we're blurring the lines of what our charge is. So that would be something that would cause me concern. I think it's good to participate and have a seat at the table. I would have to wonder as well what that would have to do with it.
It goes back to Ben's point too, that the only way you can get that resolved
Right.
is to have somebody at the table that can make that choice too.
Right.
Sounds like he's signing up. Poor Ryan.
All I know about watershed is it runs downhill, so.
It's very true.
Any other questions for Devin? Thank you, Devin, for being here today. All right, Jackie, would you call the roll?
Councilmember Bee?
Aye.
Richardson?
Aye.
Hewlin? Aye. Parker?
Aye.
Dalby?
I'm just concerned with the wording of that mission statement. No.
And Schroeder?
Aye.
Great, motion passes. Moving on, I need a first and second motion on a resolution assisting the city of Carlisle and matching funds for community attraction and tourism trail. First and second.
Moved.
Second, thank you.
I just thought
Andy.
Mayor and Council, I thought I'd start things off here, since I asked to this put on the agenda. The Carlisle Friends of the Parks is requesting assistance with their community and tourism grant, attraction grant, for whole trail system that goes from Des Moines down to Indianola. Putting the last piece in there, and I feel that, by helping out this with a small amount towards a match would help with, economic development of some people along that trail down to Indianola. So I have, Cassie Halls here from the Carlisle Friends of the Park who will answer any questions that you might have and present what they have in mind.
Yes. Well, I am really excited to be here tonight, and of course Devin is here as part of this project tonight, and here to absolutely in the spirit of partnership. So we are so excited to have this last piece of the recreational trail being completed in the spring of 2024. And as part of that completion, we have pursued ARPA funds from Warren County for the installation of a restroom at the Carlisle Trailhead. So People's Bank on Highway 5. And in thinking about the trail, that will be the one place where we will have a fully functional restroom with 4 stalls in actually a span of about 22 miles on the actual trail. Now, to clarify, are there restrooms along the trail? There are places, yes, but not with actual running water, full handicap accessible, and true facilities. So this is kind of a critical point if you're biking, hiking, walking, using the trail in that fashion, really important. So as we were going after our funds and creating the restrooms, we actually leveraged Doug Byland here in Indianola to help us put together a plan and the kind of facility we wanted to put in Carlisle. And so we are doing a Kodiak restroom from CXT, can give you all of the kinds of details you want. But in thinking creatively about the project we wanted to do in Carlisle, pursuing a CAT grant became really important to us because we realized the funding that we needed to close the gap on our restroom project, we could really maximize the funds that we were leveraging if we actually thought bigger and pursued the CAT grant, because it allowed us to do wayfinding signage and some other, just creating a gateway not only to Carlisle, but to the rest of kind of the southern portion of the metro, if you will. It was kind of an interesting conversation to listen to at the beginning or at the tail end of your work session, thinking about the emphasis on the metro and how we kind of get lost here on the south side of the metro. So thinking again back to partnership, that's why we come to Indianola. As we close the gap on our funding, that's why we thought of you as to how we bring together the pieces of our grant ask and make sure that people know that there is so much more south of the metro, and not just you get to Carlisle, use the restroom, and then turn around and go back, but what can you explore further to the south? As someone who, I live actually at 309 440th Avenue, which is off of Scotch Ridge Road. I have the benefit of leveraging services in Carlisle, which is what I refer to as my hometown. But I choose to come south for a lot of where my services are. And I spend a lot of time here in Indianola, as I do in Carlisle too. So this is kind of my second hometown. And there's so much people don't know about Indianola, and I think the trail is going to be certainly a gateway for getting people here to experience the great things that are in Carlisle. So we wanted to recognize you as a partner and hope that you would help us with closing this little window of funding that we have to make our project come together. So we have an ask for you tonight in the resolution that Andy put together of $5,000. And in making that contribution, there are great things that we can do to honor you being a partner in our ask. And certainly a lot of that comes in promotion and being able to put signs on the trail to guide people to Indianola and to have them keep coming this way, keep going south. So we saw there as ways to recognize the contribution, certainly first and foremost, but then also those wayfinding signs to point people in your direction. So with that, I know there were questions that you had sent about the actual restrooms themselves. I'm happy to answer those questions. I think there was some information that was sent. If those questions haven't been answered, but if there are other questions in general. questions about community gardens, I'm your girl.
Awesome.
I'll keep up this link.
All right.
The location of the trailhead, is it the Somerset Trailhead or is it a little further north of there?
It's north.
Okay.
So, Highway 5 as you're coming into town, the new Casey's is there. It's right across to the
Yes,
south of the new
behind People's
Casey's.
Bank. Down on that bottom?
Yes, so
Okay.
there's a natural landscape there, there's a couple of refurbished grain bins that are kind of there as shelters, and then there's the park over North River.
Right
Or
behind the
bridge
People's,
over-
right behind People's Bank. We kind of talked about this a little bit in DC on our trip, and I think this is a great deal. Got really into cycling in the last 5 to 7 years, and I think you said it best, we're the gateway to, that's kind of the last unbrought around part of the Des Moines metro area. I think the Southeast is, and I think this is a gateway to draw in those people that have been riding the same trails over and over again. They're gonna look for something, and literally you can come from downtown and be in Indianola in about 25, 30 minutes. If you hustled, most time, probably 45 minutes to an hour, most people. But, I think this is a good deal. I've been waiting for those last few miles to be finished, and I think this definitely will be, definitely something good for our community. And I, as we talked about, we really kind of probably need to jointly market, the fact that getting people out of that metro area, hey, check us out, see what's going on down here. There's some great opportunities for both communities, so.
We did also just secure, and I think I'm safe to say that we just received $10,000 from Casey's as well. So we are bringing together.
And that 10,000 will go towards the 25,000 total, or not total, but the 25,000 gap that you were trying to fill.
So the funding is, I'm not sure how to actually tackle the funding. So we had, I'm looking over at Devin as I'm doing this because it's I'm still going to look at Devin as I.
Devin, she wants you to talk.
Yes.
I'll let her take lead and fill in
We're getting there, yes.
To apply, this is Mark Lee, City Administrator. To apply for the CAT grant, there's a portion that's missing. And the Friends of the Park is working on getting several avenues to fill that. One of those is through city funds. Our council's committed funds to helping bridge that gap. And then they're also seeking out, obviously, grants and things like that. And they've had good success. That's all really transpired in the last 3 weeks, and they've had tens of thousands of dollars come in. So, very good things happening.
One of the challenges with the CAT grant is all of the funding commitments. The CAT grant is due January 15th, and all of the commitments, when you submit, have to be verifiable. So even though the awards and everything take place a little bit later in the year, you have to have all of your required commitment on the table in ink to say, here it is. One of the good things about our submission is in total, it's very small. Most of the CAT grants are much, much larger. So we have that working in our favor. So we're very confident. that
One
will
of the
be-
things I'd ask Andy about was additional signage, and I'm assuming, you mentioned this, I believe, but just want to reiterate that from that park then on to the Somerset Trail will be additional signage somewhere along the line that allows people to easily get from that point to Somerset Trail.
As part of the larger grant, we're looking at doing wayfinding signs throughout, so.
Is there currently not a trail from the northern trailhead to the Somerset Trailhead? There is.
There's between downtown and Des Moines and Indianola, there's a 3-mile gap from about Easter Lake area of Des Moines to Carlisle. And the city of Des Moines has committed to getting that done at the end of next year. So fortunately, Carlisle jumped on board. You guys had a letter of support, and we got that done for free through the city of Des Moines and several of their grant applications, so.
I think this is a great opportunity for us, and I can't speak for everybody else, but I know I do support, and if this were to pass, I would thank you for all the work that you're doing, because to apply for grants and put all the effort in, and we would benefit from that. So thank you for the opportunity to at least be a part.
I think it would be great.
All right, thank you. Jackie, would you call the roll?
Councilmember Dalby?
Aye.
Schroeder?
Aye.
Beach?
Aye.
Richardson?
Aye.
Hewland?
Aye.
Parker?
Aye.
Motion passes. Moving on, I need a first and second motion for a first consideration of an ordinance to increase monthly residential recycling fees.
So moved, as read.
Second?
Any questions or concerns? This is a 22-cent a month increase, which is a pass-through fee for this service that the city bills.
The only thing history on this is that, in the past, we had, this was before everything blew up with China and waste management having to deal with it, and so Amon's coming down, he's come down and talked to us about this before and explained it, so I understand what we have to do here. My question is, in the past, what we would do is before everything got funky with recycling, we would try to look out and maybe we raised it a little bit more, so that way if they were, if there was little increases, we had a back or kind of a little bit of extra money to be able to level that out, so we're not doing this all the time. Do you see that as that we need to look at doing, or just go with this and every time they have an increase, we'll just have to increase it?
That's a really good question, and I'm not exactly sure how our contract is established right here, but I know that there's typically a commodity side of the entire agreement, and sometimes when the commodities are selling well, then you get a little bit of money coming back to the community, and if they're not, then
Yeah,
you're paying
that we will, but
additional out. And so that's typically what we've seen in recent years, is that you're paying a little bit more out. So, being a good fiscal steward, it is something to consider, to have a little bit of reserve put aside, but I think we do 100% cost.
What we've always tried to do before is match their increase, and right now they're doing a cost increase that's based on a Midwest factoring in and the agreement. I'm not exactly sure what, it's not the CPI, but it is factoring in waste removal and garbage, solid waste price increase. So we try to match that, because technically it is a pass-through, because we collect the fee and then we pay waste management. And right now, we just try, as far as the policy is, we try to make sure that we have 25% reserve in that fund. We don't try to build it up, because it is a pass-through, but to your point, we want to make sure that we have a little bit of cushion in there, just in case we have a huge residential explosion and we have to pay out a larger amount. Then we want to make sure that we cover that.
okay, all right.
Hammond still are.
This is one of the services, though, that in the future, I know this is the third year of a 3-year agreement, is that correct? Or am I wrong on this?
It's a 3-year, yeah, and I think this might be
It expires in 2025.
So this is the first year of a 3-year agreement. Okay, but these are one of the things, I've mentioned in the past, I want to make sure that we continue to bid out and give opportunities to other people too. Can't always, maybe it'll be waste management 3 years down the road, maybe it won't be. I think it's one of those things we need to look at.
We are putting a list together.
I don't know.
We can tell you that the service that we provide for waste management is very, very, very good.
Not arguing that.
If we have any complaints or anything, a miss pickup, they're right out there to.
If I'm not mistaken, I think last time we looked at that, nobody else was even interested in providing the service.
Yeah, I don't
Was
think
that right?
our
Yeah,
local
one of the
option
things-
is not.
One of the problems is that we just do recycling. We don't contract for residential.
That's where,
And
I
if
agree with you,
lose
I'd
your
be great
trash
with that.
bin, they accidentally took it. I learned that this last week. It accidentally fell into the recycling bin. So just call them and they will very nicely bring you a new one. I found out there was 8 of us that lost them last week. It's just pure, they don't even know they go in half the time.
Yeah.
But they have they can look it up by your address. They have little cameras and can see that if they go in, so. All right. Jackie, would you call the roll?
Councilmember Beach?
Aye.
Richardson?
Aye.
Hewland? Aye. Parker?
aye.
Dalby?
Aye.
Schroeder?
Aye.
Moving on to other business, city managers report, Ben Reeves.
Okay, we almost outnumber you tonight. We actually have four city managers in the room. We
Yeah.
have a former city manager, and Cassandra is a former city manager. Appreciate her giving that presentation tonight. And Cassandra is the one that we talked about as a potential host for our retreat as well. So we'll be getting back with her, and she does a great job in the metro area. Talking about the Des Moines Metro Partnership, Charlie and I attended their quarterly meeting today, so very timely and apropos there as well, and relationships. I mentioned, I think, to the council, the police department got another $5,000 grant for their K-9 unit. Kind of going through some of the things.
You know what they're up to on that?
Yeah, what are they up to?
I don't.
Okay, you can tell us now.
We'll find out. I'll find out for you. And then I do appreciate Councilmember Dalby's concerns with regard to the watershed and the mission statement. I'm not sure who the council will choose to sit on that board, but I think those are thoughts and sentiments that we can definitely bring back and hopefully contribute and make it a better organization. So great there. And then to Councilmember Richardson's request in the 3-year, Jackie does have a list that she maintains on all of our contracts. That's being shuffled around to all the department directors right now to ensure that that list is fully up to date, and then we'll be getting that to you. And then the last real question was something that we really didn't finalize the discussion on during the study session, and that is Catch Des Moines. With regard to our relationship with Catch Des Moines, clearly they are a great organization. I had the opportunity to meet with Greg Edwards this past week. It was a very good and very positive meeting. And they're, very supportive of the entire region, including the city of Inwood. They put balloons on a lot of their brochures and whatnot. I know that some of their publications have missed opportunities where they could have marketed better. They have been sponsors of the Classic and sponsors of the golf tournament, meaning that they pay a sponsorship fee. They have provided some volunteers, but admittedly, they are very focused on bringing conventions into Des Moines. And he was very professional and positive in stating that it's for the greater good, bringing that in there. And not every city has a lot of venues that could be used for some of the work that they do. Now, we do have some venues that maybe we're not utilizing fully. I learned from Stacy with regard to the Classic that they had the opportunity to help sponsor a 3-year event that would have brought a fireworks showcase to that area, and it really would have been of benefit, but it was on competing dates with the Iowa State Fair, and so they chose not to participate, and that was an opportunity lost, and that entire event went to a neighboring community that has a racetrack, and I can't remember the name. And so it was an opportunity lost. It would have brought 500 hotel room bed stays to our community and several other positive impacts. So it's really a challenging policy-related discussion on what the council would like to do, but it does have an 18-month clause to get out of that, and the notification if the city wants to step away is required to be done by January 1st, and that gives 18 months, so a whole fiscal year and a half before we could step away, and those funds would still go to Catch Des Moines. Greg was very understanding. Obviously, they would love to have us stay as part of that organization if we so chose. I do think that if we do choose to stay with them, that we need to be a squeaky wheel, get what we asked for. And those are words well stated, I think, earlier this evening. And so we have to be a good customer, and we have to demand those services back. But with that said, we do have an opportunity to support more local representation of our region and how we might want to put those dollars to better use. Approximately $57,000 of our hotel motel tax does go to Catch Des Moines at this time. So if the council is to take any action, you would need to do so in your next meeting, and we would need to prepare a resolution for your consideration to do so. Perry City stepped away and Greg brought that up and shared their concerns and why they stepped away.
And I think, I never understood why they joined, to be honest with you. Perry's so far away from Des Moines, it didn't make sense. And I think we would be foolhardily making a decision to walk away. I think, again, I'm one of 6 sitting up here, but, I was one of those that we voted to get involved in it, and there was a reason why, is we needed to be part of the metro. I mean, we were isolated down here. We weren't engaging. Again, as I mentioned earlier, we're frustrated that they weren't doing anything, and I said, well, have we asked? And like I said, we did a lot of stuff with them over the last 5 to 7 years. Ryan Waller was very big on, like you said, squeaky wheel. He was asking for, they got us involved in doing balloon rides and did videos. They came in and shot video for us, and I mean, they did a lot of things. So, and I know they were involved with the golf outing and disc golf outing and stuff. So yeah, is it focused on Des Moines? Yeah, but you've got the state fairgrounds and you've got the Polk County complex there. I mean, that's hard to come by, but they do other things. I know, in fact, they even had people representation down one year when we had the AAU National Wrestling Tournament here, Team Duels, and they had somebody here for that as well. So, I mean, I think we got to be a little careful when we say that they don't do anything and it's not a good organ, because they've done a lot of things. So I just think we need to be more involved and ask for more and make sure that we are getting included in stuff. So
It's a great tool, and a tool unused is a tool unused.
Right.
So we need to make sure that if we are going to stand, we need to do it. But it is a request that came to me to bring to you for your consideration. And
So what do we contribute to them currently?
2/7 of the hotel motel.
57,000.
It's under 50,000.
2/7, whatever.
And what's our average ROI?
I know that they're putting $5,000 back into sponsorships to our local events plus employee time. That's not counting, the work that they do on publication and advertisements and things like that.
Yeah, they do a lot. I mean, so they use us from time to time. There was many pictures with notification that it was Indianola that go out to millions of hits online. I mean, there's a lot of marketing capabilities there. Direct ROI, I think if you look at that for making that decision, again, I'm just one of 6, but I'm just telling you, I came from when we weren't doing it to where we are now. I think we'd be making a big mistake by walking away.
I'm just curious if we couldn't lower our contribution to them, because
Well,
like I'm
what
on their
do you think?
website right
Is it
now.
all or nothing?
It's a 2 for
It's
2.
all or nothing.
It's all or nothing, so it's 2/7 according.
In order to, so Perry City asked that same question. So both Perry and Indianola came into it late. And then, and Perry did because they had a hotel that was downtown that they wanted to try to promote and utilize. Eventually, the city became owners of that hotel, and so the city needed to retain funds to be able to help pay for that hotel. So that's why they stepped away. But Perry made the ask of the entire group whether or not they could have some sort of lower, and I went with that same ask. And it would require the approval of every single city out there that's already a part of the 28E agreement. And so it was pretty much a non-start.
And I will tell you that every community that's not Des Moines or West Des Moines has, I mean, there's a new board member comes in, the mayor of, I can't remember if he's the current mayor of Altoona. I mean, he'd go to those meetings and he'd beat on the table and, and yet they still pick up a lot of things having Prairie Meadows. So I a lot of it kind of fell flat for me with him, but, I think, yeah, there are, Clive, I've sat and talked with the representative from Clive, city council member, we've talked about it. Yeah, it is a lot of money. They even pay more than we do, but, and probably get about the same amount of services as we do too. But again, I think we gotta be very careful of stepping away from relationships like that because again, the Des Moines Metro, if we didn't have that, like if we didn't have Simpson, if we would be Osceola or Albia or, I think we gotta take advantage of opportunities that we have being placed where we are, so.
So I have a question and a comment. So the question would be, are there other funds that we can use to help the chamber with their ask? And the comment would be, agreed, that I think we should be a part of it. I would like to remain part of it. I think it's a benefit to us. I think we have to advocate, but I also think if we're giving them money, we're their customer and they should be looking out for us, maybe just a little better. They do a lot of good things, but I've heard the major misses too, and that was of
What are the
concern.
major misses? I guess
With Stacy.
They missed advertising the Classic this year.
And that was, she's
that's a
worked
big
with them, she's worked
I
with
thought
them.
they were a member of that organization. Balloon Classic.
It wasn't in the printed publications.
Get it, but the Balloon Classic is privately on their own as a member of the CVB. Has been, I don't know, maybe they aren't now, but they were.
Well,
They
but
were a sponsor
being a
of
member
the
doesn't
Classic, but they
Right,
just.
no, but I mean, she was,
advertise on.
or the National Balloon Classic was a member of the Catch Des Moines. On it, because there's associate members and stuff like that, and they've been members in the past, so that's just ironic.
They may still be, I don't know,
Yeah.
I just am sharing a conversation.
Right.
you know, something that was brought to me.
One of the other things too, John, was that everything that, whenever you click on the city of Indianola, which has its own tab on the Catch Des Moines side, everything directs you to Des Moines.
Right, but we don't have anything though.
Which
What
is
do
what
we-
I was
We do have hotels,
I know, but we don't have a website, we don't have it,
That's why
it's just a
Pritesh-
link for,
that's
now
what
we have,
Pritesh was
we're
saying.
working on that,
We're gonna
I
get the
think.
tourism one, which is what Pritesh used.
Well, I
as
understand.
his
I-
sales.
I've updated the website on hotels because Hotel Palmier does come up now, on there, and maybe this is, can we circle back to this at our next study session? Cause I think there's a lot to think through and conversation to be had.
There's no urgency for tonight, and there's no action for you to consider tonight. It's whether or not something should be prepared for your next meeting.
We have other money for the chamber.
Well,
Is there
it's just a
any
matter
other-
of priority. Your budget is your budget. You're the council and you set the priorities. And we really have three things. We have the Catch Des Moines. We are trying to fund a communication specialist and also the chamber. And arguably, the chamber is a resource and a tool for us. The Catch Des Moines is a resource and a tool. And our new communications person is going to be the person that's actually utilizing that tool so that we can become the squeaky wheel. And so, yes, it requires a greater investment, but it's also a prioritization with every other department out there and resources that would come to you for your consideration and funding.
They haven't maximized our benefit just because there's a gap in the communication. And that's really on our end. We need to reach out and let them know what
Well,
we
that's
need
where,
to.
I mean, you make a good point, but again, if I'm making a sale and I have a customer, it's my job to take care of that customer. So it was their job to take care of us. I mean, I agree with you too. We have to be the squeaky wheel, but we can't just give them a total pass on that. That was an oversight. They made a mistake. They acknowledged it. I guess that's what we.
Contact.
No, well, and
No
there's
one
nothing,
point of contact. It needs
and
to
there's
be with
nothing we
somebody
can do about it
focused.
now.
Yeah.
You know,
Well,
there's nothing we can do now.
Right now, I'm on their website, and when you scroll down to the bottom of the Indianola page, the very first hotel that's listed is A1 Motel and American Inn. You know, it's all in alphabetical order versus local, you know, when you first go to that page. So to me, a lot of the things on here just refer it back to Des Moines. There's nothing focusing on the hotels here, the
But like John
amenities
said,
here, the
We haven't-
restaurants
we haven't
here.
given them our expectations
Well,
either, I don't
but
think.
like John said too, when Pritesh came in to ask for money for the tourism website, that was his whole point, is that on the Catch site, we refer them back to Des Moines because we have no site. Now we'll have a site. So I mean, we're in a bad spot to make this decision, I think. You know, because I think the contentions of the past maybe aren't going to remain the problems of the future based on what we're doing with the website and the new chamber director and, you know, some of those, and the communications person, so.
The only reason we brought it this evening and saw the urgency of it is because of the 18-month and the fact that notification had to be done. Because if notification is not given in during your next meeting, it will be another 12 on top of it.
I know it.
But that gives us maybe the time to consider and better utilize that tool and make a determination a year from now.
I guess for me, sorry,
No, that's good. Go ahead.
is it something that if we continue with Catch Des Moines, can we then have the chamber kind of be our point of contact for them to be that advocate for us?
Potentially, I think it's really gonna take all of us. I think if we're gonna market better, then it's gonna take the chamber taking a responsibility. It's gonna take us fulfilling our side by having communications, Warren County, you know, the fair, the classic, all of us coming together and be, you know, working in harmony. That's what we're not doing, I think.
Which was Mary's point this evening, is we're
Well, to the point that, we really hadn't said anything, I did send an email and received about 3 or 4 emails to Greg Edwards on that issue about what was coming up on the website. Actually, I think it was 3 emails. And I got back kind of standard, you know, just, well, we'll take a look at it, we'll kind of see what we're gonna do. And then another month later, I sent another email and again, the same response. I don't have a problem maintaining our relationship with them as long as we give the chamber or somebody and all of us, I think Ben's right, all of us have to pitch in and work at this, but, let them know that we're gonna be more than a squeaky wheel, we're gonna be allowed.
And I don't have a problem with, have an issue with that, but I think what you gotta also understand too is with the reach. I mean, how many visits this site gets
I understand
on a
that.
monthly basis, on an annual basis in comparison to, I mean, what we're gonna get by ourselves.
Right, but the reach is only good, if we have, something that's listed there that benefits, well, not benefits, but actually points them in our direction. I think you could have 2 million hits on that if it goes to Des Moines and everything goes to Des Moines, it's not gonna have a lot of effect.
But we've not had anything
Good
before,
point.
you know, and that's what I gotta go back to the economic development back in the day. We, you know, we had a toolbox that was empty, but we kept wanting to, you know, put somebody out there to sell, and it's like, well, we don't have anything, and so now we have something, and I think that's where I think before we start making big decisions like that, we really kinda need to think it through long-term, and again, they have so much traffic, and I agree, if we don't have the right things in place, but all we need to do is be talking to them and make sure that we get, cause again, I just pulled it up, and I don't know if it's going by how far away you are, but I got Hotel Palmier and Quality Inn and Country Inn.
I just went to featured, which for me, featured for Indianola should be Indianola, but on
I
here.
think that was featured for everything, cause I clicked on Clive and featured and A1 was there and all that, so I think I went to
So here's
distance and then
Here's
it,
another observation. So I went just to the main site and it said, look at Christmas tree farms in the area. And they're all listed. Walnut Ridge is about the 5th one, and it does not mention Indianola. All the others have a location, Jefferson, Cambridge. So they just need to do a little better for us. You know,
We have to give them that information.
well, we do, but they should be asking us. And if they're asking us, we're gonna tell them it's in.
I think I think a good thing that we could do here is maybe we could spend the next 2 weeks, all of us, exploring the website and maybe putting together a list of expectations. These are things, I mean, cause John, I see your point too, 100%. And then I see where we were lacking, and it's probably just lack of information we gave them.
Well, you know me, I just want it both ways. I wanna give Amanda the money and I want Keith to.
Yeah, right.
So I really, that's all I want,
Well,
so.
I'm gonna agree with John, I think, in the sense that you made some great points, John, and I think that we need to stay the course until we see how this plays out, maybe in a year down the road. Revisit this in a year after
I
we've all
don't
had.
think we can make the decision.
No, I don't
right
think we
now.
can either, and I think that's one of the things we just have to go ahead and work through it and find what we've gotta find. But I think we really need to make sure we stay on top of this, and maybe in October next year, we start taking a hard look at what our relationship is and see where we are.
And see if our expectations were
Well, the
met.
tourism site will be up by then and.
Go from there.
Amanda will, but Amanda needs money to do what she needs to
I
do.
get it.
So we haven't solved any problems.
Great. Are you done with your report? Can I say one thing? 2 things, actually, quickly.
Yes.
Okay.
I have a question too.
Yes.
2 things. Council members, I want you to know that I appreciated our discussions here. I had, on the Wednesday after our last council meeting, I had 2 people see me within 20 minutes of each other. I mean, I was uptown, ran into 2 different folks. And they really complimented us on how well that we discussed, openly discussed issues and came together on some things. And I just wanted to pass that along because I thought that was a great testament to where we've kind of come down the road here a little bit. Second thing is, I don't know if you've got your favorite interesting Christmas sweater, but I've got one that I got because we're having a party towards Christmas here. I'm gonna wear it at the next council meeting.
Not
I
me.
challenge anybody else to do the same, but that was my comment.
Game on. Is there a trophy?
We'll figure something out.
All right.
One more question.
Yeah.
So Ben, is there any way, could we be appropriate in the next couple sessions to find out, get an update about the Horseshoe Apartments and what the status of the move on that is?
That's something in litigation, but I can get you information on it.
We've got some doors open there
Could you
too.
possibly send it to me too, since it's right there in my ward?
Yeah, just for code enforcement, we've got some doors that are open recently again too. I'm sure people are trying to get warm and getting in there. But there's definitely something happening there. I'm sure code enforcement, they're great, they'll get on it.
A couple of the doors when I was leaving for work, coming home from work.
They'll get them out there. And they're different doors on certain days, so that's how you know people are going in and out, but, all right, if there's nothing else, I need a first and second motion to enter into closed session in accordance with Iowa Code section.
We don't need one.
Never mind. Thank you, 'cause I always run. Thank you. We're adjourned.
Recording stopped.